Well, today we are talking about how to capture those white background studio photos for all of your products. Let's get into it. Well, hey, what's up? My name is Tony, and I am a filmmaker photographer in the St. Louis area. Today, we're talking about how do you capture those white background studio shots that you see on Amazon or other websites featuring specific products. And so, honestly, there's really two parts to it, and both of them are pretty easy if one, you've got the right knowledge and the right gear. So today, what we're gonna be using is a regular camera, and there's all sorts of ways to get these white background shots, but the key is that you want the whole frame to be completely blown out. So the best way to do that is to make sure that your background light is just as bright as the light on your subject so that you can raise that up in post. And I'll show you how to do all that on the R5, the R6, even the R. Any of the Canon cameras I know have the tools that we need to. And then the other thing that we're gonna be using is actually a product softbox or photo box or whatever you wanna call it. Now the one that we're using today was actually sent to me. I've used these in the past. I've had another one, but this one they sent to me. It's really big. I will leave the link in the description below so that you can pick this up as well. You probably want to get one that fits appropriately to what you're using, but this one, the one that we're going to be using today, it's really big and it kind of handles anything that I need to do. It will handle small coffee cups or all the way up to bigger things like a full bag or something like that. So we're gonna go through how to do that, and then we will talk through the editing side of it, is how do you get these to look so good. Okay, let's get into it. Let's go to the photo box and go from there. Okay, so we've got everything set up in the studio right now. I've got my photo box and camera and all that. Before we get into all the details, what I want to do is just talk through a little bit about this specific photo box, because this company gave it to me and it is massive. It is huge. It's like 3.5 feet big. And I opened up the front right now. It actually fully encloses and has a little door, but I opened it up so we can kind of see what we're doing and all that stuff, and there's still plenty of light in there. Now, what these photo boxes are is it's a full cube with just some reflective surfaces, and what you can do is add in these inserts. So right now I have the white insert so that you can have a white background, but if you wanted a blue background or a black background, you can just swap out that insert. And they're all basically the same process. This one, because it is so big, is a little unique. It actually comes with these bars inside of a bag, and then you kind of wrap it and you zip the enclosure around it and you're good to go. The one thing that I've noticed with this one is setup is a little bit of a longer process than some that are a wire frame that you just kind of collapse into a cube. That said, I think that this would probably hold up better, and it's a little bit more stable than some of those wire framed ones, and I'll show you an example here of me setting up one of those. But I really like this setup. I also enjoy the fact that with this particular photo box, you can move the lights. They're on rails, and so you not only can adjust their intensity, but you can adjust their placement. And so if you want to put one light specifically on the back, you can, and then keep one on your subject. These are all really nice things. Once again, check out the link in the description. Make sure to check out these specific ones. I'm really enjoying it. And like I said, this one is really big, so I can use it for small things like cameras or whatever, all the way up to larger things like big bags or whatever. A lot fits in there. So now that we have all that discussed about this, this particular photo box, let's talk about everything else that you need. You're gonna need a camera. Obviously, you're gonna need a tripod. And then what I prefer to do is I use a lot of times the 100mm macro lens for this. And the reason why is it's just really sharp and I like that focal length. You can use basically any lens. I would suggest to lean more towards a telephoto lens, because what that does is it kind of shrinks your subject around the background, opposed to having to kind of blur out some of the background if your image is too wide. So if you've got the 24 to 105 like what we're using right now, I would suggest using it at like 100 or 105. So other than that, those are the basic kind of things that you'll need for this. Once you get the photo box all plugged in, and put together, set your object right in the middle. Another thing that I forgot to mention about this one is that it has a hole in the top, so you can actually look down and take a photo of like from top down as well, which is another nice feature. Okay, let's jump into the camera and I'll tell you all the settings that I need to make this happen. The first thing is you want to go into your menu, and during playback, you want to turn on highlight alert. That's going to help you know that you are properly exposed for these type of white photo backgrounds. The second thing you need to do is lock in your settings. With these photo boxes, most of them are daylight white balance, so make sure to put your white balance on daylight. It's not going to matter a ton, especially if you're shooting raw, because you can adjust that in post. But let's put our white balance on daylight. Then the next thing you want to do is go through your exposure triangle. First thing is ISO. Keep that at 100. We're going to leave that at base native camera ISO. Second thing is aperture. You want that in between 7.1 to 9, depending on the size of your object. Now, for most lenses, 7.1 is your sharpest image out of the lens. But if you've got a really large image, you may need to go a little bit bigger or smaller depending on what you want. But in that range of 7.1 to 9 is where you want your aperture at. And then the only other thing you need to do for exposure is you need to ride that shutter. Now, one thing that I do is I will put a 2-second delay on the camera so I can really lower my shutter 1/5, up to 1 second. It doesn't even matter because of that high aperture to make sure that the whole image is in focus. You're gonna have to lower your shutter speed to go real slow. And so if you put a 2-second delay on there, you won't get any camera shake when you push your shutter button. Other option to get around that is you can use the Camera Connect app built into your R5, R6, and I've got a video showing you how to do all that. All right, so now once we've got our settings all locked in, go ahead and what you want to do is kind of overexpose the image. And so go ahead and take a photo, and what I'll do is I'll do one where I think it is, one under and one overexposed then. Just move your shutter over just one each way. So what you want to do then is look in your playback, and you want just a little bit of that highlight alert to start to blow out. And that's when you know that you're going to be properly exposed. What we want to do is we want to blow out this entire edge. So if we start with it starting to get highlight alerted, then we're going to be able to do that a lot easier. Other than that, that's pretty much what you need to do. I'd use the 100 mil or telephoto. You want your highlight alert on, and then make sure to just get several different options when it comes to exposure. Some maybe what you think is a little dark, some that's maybe a little light. That way you don't have to reset up everything if you need to go back and get something that's slightly different from your photo. Pretty simple. Now, let's talk about the second part, and that is in post-processing. We're gonna be using Lightroom, and Lightroom makes it very easy. Now, once you have your image in Lightroom, what you wanna do is make sure that the subject of your photo is about 80% of the frame. So you may have to crop in a little bit, maybe move it around a little bit. The other thing is most of these photos are delivered in a 1:1 aspect ratio. So hit your crop on there and then zoom in so that you're about at 80%. Now, if you still have some of the frame on the outside of your edges, that's fine, that's not a big deal. We can fix that, but you wanna make sure that you've got that 1:1 aspect ratio. Okay, so now what we wanna do is go to the subject select tool in Lightroom and go ahead and just hit select subject. And Lightroom does all the magic for you. It actually selects the subject in the middle of your frame and deselects everything else. This is where it gets really fun. All you have to do is hit the inverse button on that and it selects all of the white, and then you just crank that exposure, raise the shadows, raise the whites, and that whole thing is going to be completely white on the outside. The reason that we need it all white is because if there's any shadows or any discoloration on the outside of the frame, you're gonna see that on a white background, say on a website. So it's really not that hard. Now, let's talk about how to fix if for some reason you still have something on the edges or it doesn't quite work quite right. Maybe you had one of those bars kind of in there and you need to cover that up. You don't have to go into Photoshop. All you have to do is go back to your selection tool, and instead of hitting select subject, hit like a radial selection, and then just create a radial over whatever you're trying to cover. You can use, whatever you want. a linear, any of these tools just to cover up that object, and then just crank the exposure on that, and you don't ever have to worry about any of that spill anymore. And it's nice and easy. It's really not that hard to get these good quality. Now, if you want to, before you leave Lightroom, go ahead and add some contrast, maybe lower the shadows a little on your object, making it pop a little, or if you want to add some style, you're welcome to do it at that point. But make sure to do the selection tool. So select your subject and then just do it to those specific edits. All right, other than that, have fun. All right, well, hopefully you found that this tutorial was very helpful. I talked through a lot of the different things that I like to do to get these good photos with the white background. The key is make sure that that background light is nice and bright, and the best way to do that is with these photo boxes. They're easy to set up, they're easy to store. This one that I'm using is huge, so I can fit tons of different product in there, and there's lots of versatility with it because you can change out the background, whether you want white or blue or whatever color. You can just get these different sheets to slide in and you're good to go. If you haven't already, check out the link. It's on Amazon. It's not too expensive if you're gonna start making money with these products, and I would highly suggest picking up one of these photo boxes, because otherwise the other alternative is you have to create like this white sheet behind you. You just have to blow it out, and you need all this extra light, and with these boxes, they're all contained, which makes it very easy. All right, guys, if this video was helpful, I would love for you to like it, subscribe to the channel for more tutorials and Canon gear and all these different things that I talk about, even some lifestyle stuff on how I use these cameras. Other than that, I'm going to shut down this video, and I hope that you continue to grow in your photography skills. Talk to you soon.